Get your man the Flute to play song, the fuck.
Diagwitch everyone, Kajima Tashi, and welcome back to episode number 95 of the Inline G Flute podcast with me, your host, motherfucking Inline G. It's me again. Hello. You're all sick of me by now, I reckon. We have another solo episode. No more guests. There are going to be guests, don't worry. We will get guests. It's just a very busy time for me at the minute, and I want to spend some time with just you and me, dear listener. Even my grandmother said, I really want to hear another voice in that podcast. My grandmother watches every single episode. And listen, there will be a guest. There'll be loads of them, okay? I've just had a busy time recently. I've been gallivanting across Europe doing things I shouldn't be doing. And I just want to talk to you directly. I don't want to talk to anyone else. I'm not in the mood to talk to anyone else. I'm in the mood to talk to you. My grandmother also said she wants me to stop using the C word. So, this is for my grandmother. I'm not going to use the C word anymore. I'm not allowed. Fair enough, I overused it a little bit. I only use it when I'm talking about politicians, specifically ones from America, specifically orange ones. That I've done a lot of talk about politics recently. A lot of episodes centered around political situations and various world affairs situations. And my grandmother hates that as well. And I hate it too. Man, so today's episode is for my granny and for my own mental health. There's no politics today. There's no getting wound up. There's no having to suck on a strawberry ice vape to calm myself down because I've wound myself up so much doing my own fucking podcast. That's not going to happen. Today is a lovely, warm, gentle episode. And to be honest, guys, I'm having a lovely, warm, gentle day. It's the school holidays here as well, so I can get to chill. I've got no teaching. I'm having a great day. And generally, recently, I have been in a fucking wonderful mood. As long as I stay away from the news, just don't turn on the news, I'm in a wonderful mood. And everyone's been pointing it out. Everyone's saying to me, wow, Gareth, you're looking great. Your skin is great. You're bouncing around cologne on two wheels. You're winking at people you've got no business winking at. I tell you what, lads, this is what happens when you're getting your card stamped. I'm getting my parking validated, and I'm feeling great. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, the colours are out. All because I'm getting my parking validated. But things are flying at the minute, and I'm going to have big news about various orchestral things coming up and just all kinds of class things that are happening in my life, but I still can't tell anyone about it for the next week or two, so yeah. But the sun is out in Cologne, in beautiful Köln in Germany, and I've been out socialising, drinking beer down by the Rhine with a Bluetooth speaker, and I've been teaching loads, and the podcast is flying, and I'm just riding that dragon, baby. So today's episode is a low-effort, high-reward one. I've had this episode in my head for fucking donkeys now, and I really want to do it. But I knew if I was going to do this episode, I needed to be in a good mood, because most of this isn't written down. I don't use my notes much for this episode. This is all just up there. Down there's for dancing. And I'm in a great mood today, so today is the day. So I am going to run you dear listener, through the top 5 definitive, all-time greatest flute albums. This isn't opinion. This is fact, okay? I don't do if, buts, and maybes. I do facts. If your grand had bollocks, she'd be your granda, but she doesn't, and so she's not. This is it, okay? So, we're going to call it the greatest. I hate the fact you guys are all American, because no one's going to get that reference about if your grand had bollocks, she'd be your granda, but she doesn't, so she's not. And I can't do a Scouse accent. But anyway, if you got that reference, let me know. I really hope someone did. So, when you're defining the greatest flute albums of all time, we had to put in some parameters here. I have to explain to you how I got these 5 ones, apart from just personal influence, because that's not enough, really. Because as we all know, and as I've said many times in this podcast, art is subjective. Art by its very nature is subjective. There's so many definitions of what art actually is, which by that simple fact alone shows how complicated it is to define art. You know, one definition I got here is the making of objects, images, music, etc. that are beautiful or that express feelings. Or another one I got here was the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. And personally, I would go with the definition of something like art is it's the expression of an idea or an emotion through a medium. Quite simply. Because beauty isn't always part of it. Sometimes we want to express ugly things. It doesn't have to be beautiful, although are ugly things beautiful within themselves? Because I suppose the definition of beauty is something that is pleasing aesthetically. So if something that is ugly pleases you, then it's beauty. And beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That's not just a cliche that ugly people say. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There's people out there who fancy are physically attracted to Timothée Chalamet, and he's a wee fucking rat. But listen, lads, whatever blows your skirt up, all right? Beauty is just something that is pleasurable to perceive. So you realize how subjective beauty is when you ask someone to say who's the most attractive member of Girls Aloud, because the correct answer is it's the ginger one. Or who's the most attractive member of the Spice Girls? The correct answer is Jerry Halliwell. Everything else is wrong. But apparently people disagree with me. And people are wrong. So we have to put up some parameters here to measure these albums against each other. And that's how we've got this list. So here's some of the parameters I'm putting in place. Firstly, as a rule, they have to feature the flute as the main instrument, okay? So there's no orchestral albums coming in here. This is all solo chamber music. That's all fine. But no orchestral albums that just have a bit of flute in it. The flute has to feature prominently throughout the entire album. Now, all genres are allowed, okay? Because we know the greatest flute players of all time are not necessarily classical players. There's all kinds of other styles of music that feature the flute heavily. The problem is I only really know classical or Irish folk. So for that reason, you're not going to find people like Herbie Mann in here, Ian Anderson. I just don't know anything about. I know fuck all about these guys. Jazz music, I don't know much about them. I know a very basic minimum. Now, the criteria for actually ranking the albums and getting them their place in the top 5 are historical impact. So, did it change how the flute was perceived as an instrument? Technical mastery. So, flawless execution, difficult repertoire, that'll all play into it. Personal influence. Not just me personally, but personal as a general term. So, albums that have shaped me or other flute players. Innovation. Did they introduce new styles, techniques, or genres? And finally, popularity or reach. Albums that broke into the mainstream or inspired generations of people. So with that, we should get as close to unanimity as art will allow. So the final criteria, beyond all that list, is obviously if I like it. Because it's my fucking podcast. And if you don't like it, you can fuck off around your own door. All right? My podcast, my rules. All right? So here we go, ladies and gentlemen, and all in between. These are the 5 undeniable, unarguable, definitive greatest flute albums in order, once and for all. 5th place. Here we go. The album Weber and Franck, Sonatas for Flute and Piano by Aurel Nicolet and Boris Berman. Okay? So on this album, there are 2 pieces. Okay? We have Carl Maria von Weber's Piano Sonata number 2 in A flat major, and we have César Franck's Violin Sonata in A major, okay? The flute player is the great and wonderful Aurel Nicolet, and the pianist is a guy called Boris Berman. Some of you might be familiar with. Now, Nicolet you should all know. You should know who Aurel Nicolet is, okay? Swiss flute player. He actually only died in 2016. He's been about for a very long time. And I've always referred to Nicolet as the flute player's flute player. You know, throughout his career, he lived for so long. He battled it out against Galway and then Hompal and then Pau. He was there. He was always the second one. But he just doesn't have that personality for a mega superstar that these 3 lads had. He's more of that introverted genius type. You know, a very delicate, introspective, pure musician who kind of just happened to play the flute as opposed to being a flute player. On piano, you have Boris Berman, who is still alive, by the way. Boris is still alive. He's Russian. He's really, really appreciated and respected worldwide as a chamber musician and especially as a recording artist. He's recorded with some of the greatest artists alive. We're talking like Misha Maisky and Heinz Holliger and obviously, of course, Aurel Nicolet. So this is important to point out. This album and all the albums that feature this is not an accompanist. Boris Berman is not accompanying Aurel Nicolet. That term pisses me off so much. When you're playing something like the César Franck Sonata or anything major, you're not accompanying anyone. This is chamber music. These pieces they were never written to accompany the flute player. That is bollocks and that is arrogance. We learn like that as flute players. We learn the rep like that, and that is a fucking disgrace. We learn this rep, and then we go, right, you're going to play with an accompanist, and you play it maybe 20 times in your life with different ones, especially at music college. You're always changing who you play with, and you're trying to find someone who will be able to play it with you. That's not the case. This is pure chamber music. And you have to remember that when you go into the world as well, when you leave college, this is chamber music. People are not coming to listen to the flute. They're coming to listen to this work The two instruments are as important as each other. Honestly, I nearly think the piano in most of them is far more important. They're a team. And the flute players in all the albums I'm about to mention, they're part of teams. There's no solo flute albums, okay, thank Christ. And in my opinion, great chamber music partners push each other. They really push each other. They're battling out to be the best that they can. They lift each other's game up, as all great teams do. And often these albums, all the ones I've chosen, the pianist is the superior musician. They're the bigger one. They're the more famous one. They're the one that has achieved more. And I think it takes a great deal of humility as a musician to say, I know that the piano player is better, even though this is a flute album. I'm going to market it towards flute players, but I'm going to let someone who's better as me as a musician accompany me. And to have that humility is a very impressive thing. And it's something that Aurel Nicolai had in abundance, okay? So these are two very difficult pieces. We're going to start with the Weber, okay? Because for those unaware, Karl Maria von Weber was a German composer and one of those like early romantic composers. So we're talking just post-Beethoven kind of time. Fucking class composer. Brilliant music. Most well known for Der Freischütz, the opera, or I think it's in English, the Marksman, but we never say that. We call it the Freischütz. Really famous tunes. I'm sure you know the Freischütz. If you don't, go look up some of the melodies. You'll know it. He's also, by the way, fun fact, Karl Maria von Weber is famous as the man who was buried twice. Died once, buried twice, because he died in London in 1826 and was buried in London. And then 20 years later, because of actually Richard Wagner, his remains were dug up and transferred to Dresden, where he lived for a long time. Fucking class. Isn't that cool? Now, he writes, I think it's fair to say a lot of Weber's music is cheesy, but brilliant. Virginal and kitsch, but I honestly love him. So the first piece of this album is an arrangement for flute and piano of an original piano sonata. So just piano, and this arrangement adds in the flute taking the melody line. It's a really good arrangement, and it wasn't a modern arrangement. It was made way back in the time by a guy called August Eberhard Müller. I'm assuming it was for him to play, for Müller to play himself with the piano player, because he was the organist at St. Nikolaus Church in Leipzig. He was the organist there. So I'm assuming he did that arrangement. And then after that, we have another arrangement, technically, of the César Franck violin sonata in A major. Now, that sonata is essentially flute repertoire at this point. We play it so frequently on the flute. And the reason for that is it's one of the greatest chamber music pieces ever written in general. So it was originally for violin and piano. The first arrangement and the only approved arrangement by Franck was for cello. Actually, the rumour was it was originally composed for cello, and then he got a load of money to write it for violin. So he said, fucking need those dollar bills, baby. Every instrument has played this sonata at some point. And that's the sign of a truly great piece when it's so transferable. So, why does this album get on the list? Why is it number 5? Now, listen, you all know at some point in this list, the 3 big boys of the flute world are going to be on it, okay? Galway, Hampal, and Pau are going to be on this list. All right. But Nicolai was second best, that's unfair to say, but yeah, he was second fiddle to all 3 of these great players at some point. That longevity is insane. So, as a flute player alone, he needs to be on this list. We can't talk about the greatest flute players without putting Nicolai on there. And he ticks 4 of our 5 criteria that we'd mentioned earlier. So he has the historical impact. He changed the flute for flute players. He gave us that introverted genius that was on level with other instruments. You think of people like Glenn Gould or Jacqueline Dupre on cello. Nicolai was that style of musician, a real proper artist. And he gave us that historical impact as being the first flute player to make it mainstream that had that temperament. Technical mastery, obviously this is Nicolai. It's fucking flawless. It's absolutely perfect. The technique is so good you don't even notice it being good. And that's a true virtuoso. That's not something you notice with the other lads. But with Nicolai, it's so fucking good you don't go, wow, that's amazing playing. You just enjoy the music. That's a virtuoso of subtlety. Fuck, that's a good line. Fuck, that's a good line. Where else would you get this kind of entertainment, lads? Jesus, I'm so good. Right? Fuck, that's good. Now, influence. You ask any top flute player who their favourite flute player is, most of them are going to say Nicolai at some point. He is the flute player's flute player. There you are. He inspired so many people. And innovation, he did so many transcriptions of flute works or other works for flute in a really tasteful, subtle way that Galway and Hampal didn't quite do. The Galway and Hampal transcriptions are often just I don't want to shit on them, but they're kind of just to sell books or sell CDs. Nicolai did ones that have genuine artistic integrity. They're beautiful transcriptions. The only thing he's missing from the criteria is the popularity or reach. He didn't have that. Now, why this album in particular? Because we know Nikolai needs to be there. First of all, Boris Berman, the piano player, fucking insane. So good. He's the perfect partner for Nikolai because he's also that sensitive, delicate, nuanced kind of musician. It takes a musician to appreciate this level of playing. This is not for your layman, your game. That's so childish. It's not for your layman, all right? It's for someone who's trained in music to really appreciate how subtle this kind of music is and how well they play. They could have played any other sonata in the world. Okay, like they have the funk sonata, that was pretty standard rep for the flute. To pair that in this album, they could have picked any. They could have picked the Prokofiev or the Schubert Arpeggione, or they could have picked like Heineke. There was so many works they could have, but they decided to find this really little known arrangement of a piano sonata from Weber. Why? Because it suited them as artists. It's pure artistic integrity and genius. There's zero ego in that choice alone. There is zero ego. They could have picked anything. They would have sold more. So, guys, without talking anymore, I'm going to play 30 seconds of this, okay? Just so you guys can hear what we're talking about. It's so delicate and weighted and patient. Every note is just dropped in front of you. There's no ego in that playing whatsoever. That's only 30 seconds. Excuse me. 30 seconds. The whole album, go and listen to it, lads. It is fucking magnificent. Now, next, we're going to get a bit faster here going through these because we're already 16 minutes into the podcast. So, number 4 in the album, Emmanuel Pahud and Eric Lesage, Paris. Or Paris, if you insist on speaking like a dickhead. I'm the dickhead there. Doing French pronunciation is a bit wanky, but lads, I love it. So, the Paris album, Pahud and Lesage. This is 1997, is released. So, a 27-year-old Emmanuel Pahud and a 30-year-old Eric Lesage, full of youth, fresh out of the CNSM, released an album to pretty much end all fucking albums, okay? All the major French flute hits without any of the cheesy shite from that fucking book. That book with like fucking Chaminade and Louis Gann and all that. Shite, alright? Fucking shite. This is real music, right? This is the real fucking of Paris. All that other cheesy French stuff, it's fun to play, but it's not real music, okay? This is the dog's bollocks. This is the stuff. So it's like Messiaen, Dutilleux, Poulenc, Ibert, Millot, Sancan. Fucking pure Paris magic. All kind of from that sort of post-impressionist period in France where we just moved past Debussy and Ravel and we started to go back into melodies and colours and textures. So, as I said, both the guys, Pahud and Lesage, went to the CNSM, the Paris Conservatoire, and you can feel that this music is in their fucking bones, man. It's in their bones. I've said before, but Pahud's greatest strength as a flute player and as a musician is his adaptability. He hasn't got that. You don't get that thing of listening to Pahud and going, that's a Pahud sound. That's obviously Emmanuel Pahud because of the sound. You get that with Galway and you get that with Rampal or Rampal, but you don't get that with Pahud. But you know it's him because when you listen to it a little bit, it's how fucking brilliantly he captures every style, genre, period of music. He's a true chameleon, and everything he turns to, he does it fucking perfectly. It is magnificent. It's that mix of academically informed performance with pure, sexy, French, Swiss spontaneity. It's gorgeous. And it's honestly just a joy watching a super intelligent musician show off. But show off his intelligence and his subtlety. And Lesage is in that kind of same mold. Eric Lesage is not an accompanist. Again, I'm saying this a lot, but he's not. He plays a lot in chamber music, especially with flute players. He's very sought after as a chamber music partner for flute players. He's a brilliant chamber musician. Again, very humble guy, zero ego. Zero. I've met him a few times. Unbelievably humble. Just a normal dude. But when he starts playing, you can hear just this little hint of panache, a little bit of sexiness, a little bit of arrogance, just in the right dose in his playing. I mean, just a little bit, really just touching on it. It's a wee wink every now and then to remind you that although he's a nice guy, he knows what he can do. And he expresses that a little bit more in his music than he would in his personality. It's fucking gorgeous. Now, obviously that Bayou album was going to be on this list, and he only got the 4, which is mad. But it was hard to pick an album. My first thought was the CP Bach Concertos album. Fucking class, isn't it, with the Potsdam Chamber Orchestra? It's amazing. And then there's also the solo album, where it all works for solo flute. That really broke new ground. My favourite one is the opera album, The Night at the Opera. It's great, it's so much fun. But this is the album, the Paris album is the one that put him on the map as the absolute best of the best. And he was so young. The balls to go and take on all this rep in one recording. Not just one, not just like the Melanoir and a bit of Duty and then fill it out with some fucking Chaminade or something. No, this is all the major hits of this period of music in one album. That takes balls, and that's pure Bayou to do that. And it's now the standard album. When you go to look for any of these pieces to hear a recording, if you're studying any of these pieces, you will go to the Bayou album, and that will never change. No one will ever do this music as well as he does it, in my opinion. It's as close to a correct way of playing this music that you'll ever get. So, I don't know if I have to say any more about this. It's a fucking amazing album. You guys all know it. It's got a great cover as well. He looks amazing. So, I'm going to play a little bit of the middle movement of the Poulenc Flute Sonata to let you hear what Emmanuel Bayou and Eric Lesage can do. I have to stop it there, guys, because I'll get a copyright strike off YouTube if I keep playing. But I've said this before in this podcast. My teacher in Paris, Catherine, who was principal for the opera, always said, "Trouvez le mouvement dans le non-mouvement." Find the movement in the non-movement. French players learn this style very strictly in time. It feels like they've got this rubato all the time with the rhythms and they're playing with it. It's not true. They play it strictly in time, and then they find the movement within that. So they don't fuck with the tempos. They find the little turns and pulls and pushes that just keep you going. The way Bayou starts it, when he plays that first note, that was beautiful, thank you very much. When he plays that first note, the little extra fucking microsecond that he waits to put it in there just gives you that, there we are. He just holds you on long enough, but not too long that it becomes kitsch, and that's Bayou all over. That's the perfect style for this music. It's French, but it's not fucking cheesy shite. It's sophisticated and refined, but it's still sexy. Bayou does that better than anyone, and Lesage just goes with him. He knows exactly what he's doing. Now, number 3 in the list. Fuck, I love this album. This is Bolling and Rampal Bolling, Suite for Flute and Jazz Piano. Now, you'll all know this album. I hope you do. It was released in 1975. So you've got Claude Bolling, the composer, on piano. You've got 4 musicians. So you've got, Claude Bolling, the composer. You've got Jean-Pierre Rampal, or Rampal. I'm going to say Jean-Pierre Rampal. I'm going to pronounce it properly, but I'll say Rampal now so you know that's who I'm referring to. On flute, obviously. We've got Marcel Sabiani on drums, and we've got Max Ediguet on bass. Like the upright bass, not the School of Rock, like do, not that one, okay? Now, again, JP Rampal had to be on this list. Rampal had to be there. I can't do a list of greatest flute albums without having Jean-Pierre Rampal. Now, initially, I was going to put the Bach album on, which he recorded with Trevor Pinnock for most of the sonatas. Or there's that Baroque Concertos album, or there's also the Great Flute Concertos album, which is fucking amazing. What's important to know about Rampal, okay? And anyone will tell you this. Some of his recordings are shite. Like, Rampal recorded some real shit as well. Apparently, he turned up the recording sessions and just didn't give a fuck. Some of them are bad. Like, they really are not good. A perfect example of that, like, if you listen to the Bach album, it starts with the partita for solo flute. The partita's all over the fucking place. It is terrible. It sounds like he's hungover. And as a man who's hungover 90% of the time, I can tell you, he sounds like he's fucking hungover. Then when you skip past the partita and you start playing the sonatas, oh my God, you fucking melt. It is genius flute playing. It is unbelievable. But I thought I can't put that album in because it's shite. And then I was flicking through and I just remembered this album and I did more research on it and I was like, this is the one. So this album is considered crossover because Claude Bolling essentially wrote a piece for Flute and Jazz Trio, which is a little bit jazzy, a little bit poppy, a little bit fluty, and he wrote it for Rampal to play at the start because Rampal was making it big in France at the time, starting to become internationally known. This was a great thing to do. Now, we say crossover. We're not talking like the shite that people do nowadays, like some of the fucking shit people are doing on the flute these days as crossover. I don't want to shit on people's music, but man, some of it's fucking shit. Doing a Coldplay cover, fucking hell, right? Don't think anyone's done a Coldplay cover, but I'm going to bitch on Coldplay a lot. I don't know why. I'm really fucking hating Coldplay at the minute. But some people do some shite crossover stuff. It has no artistic integrity. They're doing it because they want to make money. And here, we're not going to hate on people making money. Okay? But it's not good music. And we know that. This is true artistic crossover. This is where you're taking two genres and delicately fusing them together. So it is jazz and it is classical. And there's a touch of pop. And again, this is by two musicians at the top of their game. Or four musicians, two in the creative seat. They're all at the top of their game. It reminds me a little bit of that album I talked about from Julien Bonnimont, where he did the California Dreamin' album, where you get to hear world-class musicians at the fucking peak doing this kind of music. Normally they either view crossover stuff as beneath them and they won't do it, or they do the hyper-poppy stuff to sell records, or because the record label said, you make us one of these albums, we'll let you make 3 of your own. But when musicians at that level actually do and commit artistically to crossover, it is magic what they can achieve. Now, this is a 7-movement suite. It was composed for Rampal. Now, there's a video version of it where they're playing it at the Palais de Versailles, just outside Paris. This album is the audio version of that recording. So you can watch the video version. It's on YouTube. It's class. The audio version, when you listen to it on Spotify, for example, you buy the record. It is better quality. It's been remastered for audio purposes, so it is better quality, I have to say. And it came out a few years after the video recording. The video recording came out for might have been Betamax or something. It was before VHS. And it was on live on French television. Now, we're going to go into our criteria. Okay, so first of all, historical impact. Rampal redefined the flute. I don't even have to sit here and tell you how much of an impact Jean-Pierre Rampal had on the flute. We know it, okay? Technically, again, I'm not having to defend Jean-Pierre Rampal. Technically, he did it all. He fucking completed the flute, all right? It's amazing. It's fucking class. The reach he had, in general, he took the flute to a brand new level of fame. And he did it almost uniquely using these weird Baroque concertos that no one had heard of. No one had played things like fucking Leclerc or Breda or even Bach, to be honest. The Bach flute sonatas were not that widely performed until Rampal picked them up. Telemann, all that stuff. Rampal was one that made it famous and it was incredible. He built his career off this kind of music. It's really amazing to do that. He innovated repertoire as well. And he pushed the instrument past anyone else. And then personal influence. Come on, lads, we all know who Rampal is. Okay? He inspired everyone. So he ticks every single box. But this record, which, let's be honest, when Rampal probably looked at the score for this music, he probably went, that's a piece of piss. I could play that in my sleep. But you can feel that a little bit. You can feel him just chilling. He's not trying to be the best flute player in the world. He's not trying to redefine the instrument. He's not trying to go that far. He's just having a bit of crack. And that's not something we get to hear Rampal all the time. It feels like he's on a beach somewhere with a fucking glass of wine and a bowl of pasta. Just fucking living the life, man. The record is joy. It's pure joy to listen to. It has that jazz feel. You get it, just 4 lads, 4 mates, sitting about with a beer on top of the microphone, just fucking drinking away, having a bit of a laugh, playing tunes and having the crack. What more do you want? And we don't see that very often with classical musicians. It's hard for them to switch off and perform like that, but Rampal, I think, was just special. Now, this album was massive. It was a big seller. It was on television as well. This was a real big thing, especially in France. You will still see this record about in thrift shops in Paris. If you go to a record shop, you'll find this. I went to order a record of it the other day. You can get it for like €3. And it's not in print anymore, but there's so many copies of it running, or might be in print, but there's so many copies of it knocking about in basements and stuff. Everyone bought it. And the cover is fucking gorgeous, man. It's like this really cool artsy jazz photo. It's gorgeous. It looks so stylish and cartoonized. And look it up. So the album is called Bonnie Rampal, Jazz Suite. Now, this is the album that finally pushed the flute beyond classical in a tasteful way. Again, not like doing some fucking Enya shit or something. So when you go to listen to this kind of music, leave your pretension at the door. Kick off your shoes when you come in. Grab a glass of fucking champagne from the wee tray as you walk in and tuck into this album. This is a Saturday night album. Stick it on, draw the blinds, get something Irish and sweet in your hands, I'm talking about whiskey, by the way. When I say Irish this week, I'm talking about a whiskey. Although I am free this weekend. There's even a movement called Irlandese, which I think you all thought I was going to play that movement, but I'm not, because since that episode I did a few weeks ago on serendipity, I've been having a sentimental wee period in my life. It's great. I've been crying a lot, but in a very good way. So there's a movement in here called Sentimental, and it's gorgeous. So I'm going to play Sentimental Part 1 by Club Bowling and Jean-Pierre Rampal on the Bowling Rampal Suite for Flute and Jazz piano album from 1975. I would love to play more of it, lads, but I'll get a copyright strike, but go and listen. That's good for your soul. It is so beautiful. That album, that particular recording of that track, actually, is always the proof to me that AI will never be able to do what humans do. Because the piano introduction with Bowling, it's so perfectly in time and so weighted, but it's got so much passion. There's the odd little touch that just goes somewhere. It's just, a machine could never do that. That switch in tempo and the way it drags it back. It's just fucking perfect. Second place, lads. The second greatest flute album of all time, in my opinion. We have Music at Matt Malloy's by Matt Malloy. Now, this album was recorded in 1993 at Matt Malloy's pub in Westport, County Mayo in Ireland. It's actually just on Bridge Street, if anyone knows what that is. It is probably the most famous album of an Irish music session ever recorded. Okay? So, I'm going to quickly go through the musicians that are on this album, because you might recognize a few names, you might not, but I want to make sure they all get a say. So there's so many people turning up, but Bouzouki, you've got Noel O'Grady, Paul Doyle, you've got fiddle, Breda Smith, Cora Smith, Sean Smith, flute, you've got obviously Matt Malloy, Paul McGrattan's on it as well, and then guitar you got Artie McGlynn, a couple of other people pop up, a couple of fiddle players, people like John McHugh, Mick O'Grady, Terry Crean, a couple of singers as well pop up. Where are they? Yeah, Johnny Curtis is on it, Becky Egan plays guitar and sings as well. Pat Egan's on it as well, very famous. Tap dance, impromptu step dancing by John Joe Gaggerty. You've got all kinds of people on this. Fiddle, Liam Grealish comes on there. Pat Fried's on accordion. Mick Lavelle does a song, actually beautiful version. Jimmy Murray on flute for one point. Everyone's on this album. Now, those list names might not mean a lot to you, because a lot of you probably don't play Irish traditional music, but it's a all-star cast, and this is a session. It's a live recording of an Irish music session. So really briefly, an Irish music session is where you turn up to the pub and you just play in the corner. You might have 3 players, you might have 200 turn up. It is not to make money. This is so fucking important. It is not a gig. It's never a gig. It is for the musicians to enjoy themselves. You will face inwards in an Irish music session. You do not face out to the audience, and you just play. And the general etiquette of a session is you go in, you start playing a tune. One person just starts out of somewhere, playing a tune, and everyone joins in if they know it. So you'll always get like a few bars at the start where it's just one player. Then people go, oh yeah, fuck, I know that one, and they join in. Then they play it a few times and they make a set out of it. So they put 2 or 3 tunes together and they'll switch at some point. And when they're about to switch, they'll probably say something, go, yep, a few bars before they're going to switch. Then you hear the moment where they switch and the flute will start, for example, if it is the flute, it will start again on its own with a new tune until people know it and then move on. And you just share that. That's the etiquette of a session. And you just go. Sometimes people go, I want to sing a song. Away you go, mate. You sing a song. And when you get world-class musicians coming together, it's so spontaneous. It's pure electric music making. Now, quickly on Matt Malloy. You should know the name Matt Malloy. And if you don't, you're going to learn it now because it's so important. Now, Matt is still alive. Matt's 78. He's not even that old. And he's still gigging like fuck. So he's from County Roscommon, which is kind of like bang in the middle of Ireland. Like right bang in the middle. Although his hometown of Ballydoreen used to be in County Mayo, which is just a little bit more northwest-ish in Ireland. the side facing America. So it borders with like Mayo and Sligo, which is on the west coast, out that way. Now, this area specifically of Roscommon is well known for producing flute players, and they've always had their own very unique style. You can hear a flute player from Roscommon. Now, it's kind of like Jimmy Galway. Jimmy Galway has that Belfast sound in flute playing, but then the question is, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Because do players in Roscommon play like, does Matt Molloy play like a Roscommon player, or do Roscommon players play like Matt Molloy? Or does it sort of mix in? And it's hard to know. The influence re-influences the influencer. Fuck, I'm so smart. Now, what Molloy did to reinvent Irish flute playing was to sound more like a piper. So he always played what were traditionally known as pipe tunes on flute. People wouldn't play them on flute because on a simple system flute with no keys, or one or two keys even, they're really fucking hard to play. They do not suit the fingers at all. They're really, really difficult to play and they're just awkward as fuck. And what he also did was he kind of reinvented the hard D, or basically invented the hard D. So the hard D is the low D, the lowest note on the instrument. When he plays it, it's like a fucking foghorn. It just hits out of nowhere. We can't do that kind of sound on a classical flute. No one can. Like, Molloy thumps the shit out of low Ds, and he changes his entire embouchure just for those low Ds. And that was an invention from him. And being able to do that, give it this pipe feeling. And suddenly his tunes have this real kick and edge and blast to them. It's fucking class. And that's how you know it's Matt Molloy. You can listen to a flute and go, I don't know who that is yet. The minute you hear bottom D, you're like, oh fuck, that's Molloy. That's Molloy. So he was famous for playing with the Chieftains, a very famous Irish band, as well as the Bothy band. And then when the Bothy band broke up and they reformed as Planksty, he was involved with them for a while. But this album is largely regarded as the greatest Irish session ever recorded. Now, there's a session every single night at Molloy's pubs now. The pub still exists. It's in Westport. Go down and see it. And the best musicians in Ireland travel up to play in this pub. Now, Matt's website has a description of this album, and this is as beautiful as you can say. So, live from the pub of the legendary flute player, a night of airy jigs, wild rees, dark pints, and sad songs. This CD magnificently covers the intensity of life and the excitement engendered by traditional musicians enjoying themselves. But as the live music only reveals itself fully to the live listeners, so, in other ways, this tape is a record of what you missed. A good thing too, Kieran Carson thinks, because, of course, an important part of learning about the music is finding out for yourself. You might have to go over all those humpback bridges to Molloy's, or you might discover it in a bar down your own street. Matt just hopes this CD may be the beginning of the journey. So we're going to hear a little bit of this, and I'm actually going to pick my favourite track off it, which is the beginning of a set that starts with a tune, a lovely reel called Rolling in the Ryegrass. And I love this. You can hear the pints in the background, you can hear the clinks. It just feels so electric. Fuck, I would love to keep playing that for you, lads. That is fucking rocking. Listen to that album. I swear to God, you will never have so much crack listening to an album. You can hear the people talking, you hear the pint glasses going in the background, and you can feel the spontaneity of people going, oh, I'll fucking sing a song now, and you can hear the crying, and it's fucking magnificent, the album. It's pure crack. When you listen to that album, you guys will understand why I love pints so much now, and why I love pubs, because after that, after listening to even 45 seconds of that, your soul wants a pint. Your soul wants a nice big pint of stout. It's beautiful. Fuck me. Go listen to it, lads. There's a reason why that is number 2 on the list, and it nearly got number 1, but number 1 is just too good. But before we get to that, dear listener, the Inline G podcast is free, and it'll always be free. That is a motherfucking guarantee. But if you wish to donate to the podcast, you can now do so through the Patreon. On the screen now is the address, and for the audio listeners, it is patreon.com/the Inline G Flute podcast. Now listen, here's the crack, lads. I make 4 episodes of this podcast a month, come rain nor fucking shine. 95 weeks I've been doing this. Every Friday you're getting an episode. I do it all. I do every part of this podcast. I do Graphic design, audio production, video production, script writing, every fucking bit of this is by me. There's no team behind me as much as I say there is. And if you listen to 4 episodes of this per month and you think, fuck, if I saw Gareth in the pub, I'd buy him a pint to say thank you, do it digitally, okay? The Patreon is €5 a month, okay? Basically, with that, you're keeping the podcast alive. I don't want sponsors in this podcast. They can go fuck themselves. Every time I've tried to get a sponsor on the set, oh, you can't swear, you can't talk about politics, you can't mention this, you can't mention that, I want you to plug our product, even if I think their product's shite. Fuck them all. We have got the biggest Flute podcast in the world, and it is fully listener funded. How fucking cool is that? We make more money from you directly than the other podcasts make from sponsors. This is self-funded. What a fucking cool thing to be doing, man. This is incredible that we are building this community, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So, here's the crack, lads. If you donate to it, you're not going to get anything extra. I really believe everyone should have full access to Inline G if they can afford it or not. So basically, if you can afford €5 a month, maybe you can only afford it for 1 month, that's grand. You can jump in and jump out as you want. If you can only afford it for 1 month, jump in, sign up, fuck off out. There's no weird hidden costs or anything. You're supporting the podcast. It's a system based on soundness and kindness. So if you can't afford it, because you're probably a musician, and maybe like me, you're a bit skint, that's fine. You can keep listening for free. Maybe someday you'll be able to afford it, and you can support me for 1 month. I'm getting paid for my art by you guys directly. You guys get the podcast you want. I get to make money for all my work. It's fucking great. We're all winners. So if you're donating already, I love you. Okay, lads, here we are. Let's do this. Number 1, the best Flute album of all time. We all knew what I was going to say here. Let's be fucking honest. But let's build the suspense a little longer. The greatest Flute album of all time. In first place is Sonatas for Flute and Piano, Prokofiev and Frank by James Galway and Martha Argerich from 1975. Obviously, the number 1 album on this list was going to be Jimmy. Obviously it was, okay? Jimmy on his own, as an artist, ticks every single box of our criteria. Historical impact, absolutely changed the game for flute players. Don't need to say that. Technical mastery, what do you want me to say here? Legitimately redefined what we could do in the instrument, and I don't think he will ever be topped in terms of technical mastery. Personal influence, lads, 80% of the people I interview for this podcast, when I ask them their first flute album, it was Jimmy. It was always Jimmy. And you can hear Jimmy's sound in so many players to this day. His influence is unparalleled. Innovation, again, the man literally defined the way we play the modern flute. It's all because of Jimmy. And popularity, easy, highest ever selling flute artist by quite a bit. One of the highest selling classical music artists of all time. Was in the fucking charts. Man, he was on top of the pops. That's it. So, the way I view Jimmy is there's sort of 3 main periods to his career. Okay, there's the orchestral period at the start where he played with the London Symphony Orchestra and then the Berlin Philharmonic. The soloist period, and then the crossover period. Because basically what Galway did was he would climb to the top of a game, like the orchestral, fucking complete it, climb to the top of that mountain and go, well, what the fuck do I do now? And he'd move over to another mountain. And he went to become a soloist. Not just a flute soloist, but a classical music soloist. He climbed that mountain. He topped it. He played every bit of rep and everything he could do. He wanted a new challenge. He went into the crossover world. And he fucking topped that as well. He just keeps finding new mountains to climb. But in 1975... this is when Galway just left what is arguably the greatest orchestra of all time, which was the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra under the baton of Herbert von Karajan. He'd been there for 6 years at this point, and he was one of the very few players in the history of the orchestra to quit the Berlin Philharmonic. He wanted to go solo. He wanted his own career. Von Karajan was distraught at it, really wanted him to stay, but he went down. So when he did go solo in 1975, at the peak of his fucking classical powers, he signed an exclusive album deal with RCA Records. Now, some of you might have this. They released a special box set a few years ago with all 71 CDs and 2 DVDs of all his RCA recordings. The first album he did with RCA, first solo album, was this one. And fuck me, I think he peaked. He completed it after 1 album. Now, as I said earlier, these pieces, chamber music, these are not with accompanists. That does not exist. I fucking hate that. And as I also said earlier, great musicians will choose even better musicians to push themselves further. Jimmy, when he came out in 1975, went, fuck it, I'm going straight to the top. Going straight to the top. Because, in my opinion, Martha Argerich is one of the very, very few musicians from the last fucking 75 years that will go down as a true, timeless legend. She is, for me, the greatest piano player that ever lived, or certainly since the invention of recording. There's no one better. Martha Argerich is the fucking piano player. The great musician of our generation. The only other person I can think of the last while that I would put in that level is someone like Maria Callas. That's it. These are beyond time. These are geniuses. Now, she was 34 when they recorded this album. Jimmy was 36. Martha is the undeniable star of this album. It's Martha fucking Arkwright, okay? This is as good as it gets. But Jimmy really ups his game for this record. This is Galway at his fucking brilliant, virtuosic, timeless, classical best. We hear Galway so often that we forget how good he was back in the day. After he left the orchestra and he did so many things over the years, his sound almost became a caricature of his own sound. He became a caricature of himself. And that Galway is so popular and so mainstream that we forget how fucking good he was back in the day. Like, he was always good, but he's always trying to improve. He's always trying to innovate. So he's changed things so much. But the Galway on this album is when he had just finished conquering the entire flute orchestral world. Principal Flute of the best orchestra of all time, and fucked off. This is Galway at his peak. This is, without any doubt, the greatest flute album ever made. Okay? The Funk Sonata especially is a fucking white knuckle ride between two of the best musicians on the fucking planet going at it, battling it out. And we are lucky to have a flute player who could go toe-to-toe with Martha Arkwright and make a record like this. It's obscene level of playing. Now, I'm not going to talk anymore. Sorry, I hit the microphone there. I'm not going to talk anymore because this will speak for itself. This is the third movement of the César Funk Sonata by James Galway and Martha Arkwright. Lads, that album, fuck me. When Martha Arkwright plays, I always have the feeling that she's got this perfect weight of where to bring a piece. It always feels like she's just jumping the beat. She's always moving ahead. She's always giving the music momentum. It always goes forward. And she's not playing faster, but the way she weights the phrasing just gives you this feeling it's always going somewhere. And to play with that, you need to have a ballsy performer. You can say, fuck it, you're going to do that. I'm going to go with you. I can do that too. When Galway opens that scale with the big do-da-dee, the sound, the fucking virtuosity, because Arkwright opens it so beautifully and weighted and confidently, and he goes, fucking, yeah, I can do that too. I can play like that too. I can fucking smash this up. And you're just sitting there going, it nearly feels like the whole way through the album, instead of being chamber music partners, it is two musicians at their absolute best battling it to go, I can do that better. I can fucking do that better. And they're going at it and they're having a load of crack doing it. It is obscene. Obscene. Now, dear listeners, you will probably be looking at this thinking, oh, the episode's over now. Gareth's done. And you're looking and thinking, there's a wee bit of time left. Probably not much, okay? Give me 5 minutes here. Because I've ranked the 5 greatest albums. They're done now. I've got my criteria. I've done it. And we can try to compare and rate and critique art as much as we want, okay? But at the end of the day, the heart wants what the heart wants. Defining love is an impossible task, but it's great crack trying to do it. You just ask every poet, musician, author, painter, and alcoholic in a pub since the beginning of time. We are no closer to understanding love yet. And so I have to throw in my own greatest album. Because this will always be my number one record. And fuck the criteria I set up earlier. This is for love. I love it. This is it. And like your woman says in Love Actually, true love lasts a lifetime. This album is just it for me. And I want to highlight that at the end of it all, with all the critiques and all the thoughts and opinions, art and love don't have logic or rationality sometimes. And this record has had the biggest effect on me, bar none. So it is Bach by Magali Mounier. It's an album from 2009. Now, I talk about Magali a lot on this podcast. She's been a guest on here. My favourite flute player of all time, without doubt, one of my favourite people of all time, and the flute player who's had the biggest impact on me personally. She did 3 solo albums. This is the middle one. It's with orchestra, and it's kind of like a mixture of flute originals and arrangements, all by Johann Sebastian Bach. Now, Firstly, this is the album of her three to really hear Maghalie's unique sound. Especially after you listen to Galway and Pau and Rampal, I hope hearing her will have the same effect that it had on me all those years ago when I first moved to Paris. Because when I first went there and I listened to her, I was blown away by her sound. And not because of the virtuosity, but because it was a sound of like true, honest, unashamed femininity. You know, the lads play like lads. And that's great. They're always looking to like push the expression of the sound, of the dynamics, of the colour. They're going further and further and always striving to be the best. And it's amazing. And Maghalie has that, of course, when she plays. But there's a contentness to it that is unique and is very feminine. It's beautiful. You hear this relaxed, calm, tranquil sound. And I don't mean the tonal quality is relaxed and calm and tranquil, but I mean in the gentle confidence of her phrasing and her colours. Realising back in the day that the flute can play like that, and it doesn't always need to sound so fucking macho and in your face, was a big turning point for me. I always assumed you had to play like that as lads. You have to fucking blow the shit out of the instrument and push, and if you're going to play piano, make it the most piano you can ever do. I heard someone say recently that they were nervous for something, so they meditated 3 times, and I was like, man, that is the most fucking man thing I've ever heard of. Like, oh, meditation will help. I'll do it 3 times soon. Ha ha ha, more's better. That's what these lads do. They're all, and it's great. They push the instrument further, but to listen to true femininity in the flute is great. When I want to be a better flute player, I go and listen to Galway or Rampal or Pau. When I want to feed my soul, I listen to Maghalie. So, like, Sir James Galway is like a great Irish whiskey. He's sophisticated, he's nuanced, timeless, and he's the epitome of great craftsmanship. And Jean-Pierre Rampal is like a great bottle of French wine, like a Petrus. He's complicated, he's history, he's sensual, and just pure fucking class. The epitome of class. Maghalie she's like a cosmopolitan. Like your first cosmopolitan when you go on holiday. She's like when you go on your holidays with your friends and you're sitting on a balcony and she's the pina colada that you're drinking, sitting on the balcony looking at the beach with your mates. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. That's it. That's what you really want. You know that. That's what it's about. And she is that. That's what her plan is. So I'm going to leave you with this. And then I'm going to fuck off. It's a bit of the final track of the album, which is an arrangement of Erbama Dish. Again, ending an album with this. I'm sure she was accused of like, oh, you're just throwing in like a popular one and doing a shitty arrangement of it to make people happy. That is pure Maghalie because you can tell she just likes this. She loves this music and she's going to play it and she doesn't give a fuck what anyone else thinks. It's delicate, beautiful, and feminine. So, lads, I'm going to leave you with this. Have a lovely weekend. I love you all very much and I will see you next week. Opera.